Good morning. Welcome and Happy New Year. Let's do a quick recap of last year before we get into what we're going to fix today. Last year, I decided to try out a crazy new thing. I bought this Devil Forge and I decided to melt just about everything I could find. As you can see behind me, it evolved beyond just melting down copper and aluminum. I'm also into the gold recovery and precious metal recovery from e-waste and other sources. I would not have gotten into all this had it not been for the fact that I was starting a hobby and my friends wanted to see what I was doing, but I couldn't have them come over to see it. So I put it all out here onto YouTube, and that's how the channel got started. I want to thank all of those that have subscribed. We are above 100 subscribers. In fact, last I checked, I was above 150, so I've already exceeded the goal of 100 in the month of December, so thank you. Things that I've learned so far, everything wears out. The forge is no different. So today, I'm going to show you how to replace the wool, as that's what I'm going to do to fix up my forge. Before we get into that, I got a little bit of bad news. Well, it's bad news for two people. It's good news for you guys though. As the title of the video suggested, there's a contest. There's a giveaway. I don't know who's keeping track, but these two bars were the bars from the giveaway last month. I never got the emails from those two people that won to get a shipping address. So I don't have a way to ship it to those two individuals that won, so we're going to redraw these. I have two 600-gram copper bars. Please subscribe and leave me a comment down below if you are interested. Next video, I will announce the two that win, and those two, pay attention because you need to email me your address so I can send these to you. Yeah, pretty cool copper bars here, guys. They've got some stamps on them. So I bought the wool for this, and I made an assumption because I was being lazy, and my assumption was wrong. I assumed that the wool was 1 inch thick, and it's actually 2 inches thick. So I've got the wrong wool, but I have enough of it that we're gonna just double up everywhere. And so it'll be 2 inches thick. There will be a little bit of an air gap between. I don't think that'll be much of a problem. It's just going to stack the wool, and I gotta cut the hole for the burner, and I've gotta cut the hole for the top, but I think it will be just fine. So let's get started, and why don't you step a little closer and we'll get started. So this is the top. You can see that the rigidizer has started to crumble off, and there's still a lot of width here, and it actually makes me sad to take this wool out. But the problem that I have is these pits right here have burned through, and I don't want them to burn down to the metal edge and put a hole through my forge. But you can see right here that it just burns right into the wool, and it makes these pits and valleys. So it might be a waste, but I am going to replace this entire segment of wool. Let's move on over to the forge itself. You can see here that there's a lot of what looks like charring, a lot of burning. But the one thing that's the most concerning to me is this crack in the wool, and on the outside you can see where it's starting to discolor the metal, the steel frame of the forge. And then there's this pit right here. It's not very deep. I can touch the bottom of it, but overall, this wool just looks like it's ready to go. The other thing that let's see if I can get an angle on this. The other thing that I'm worried about is, it's hard to see it in the video here, but it slopes down in, which means that either the wool is shrinking or it's being burned away down here, and it's causing it to collapse just a little bit. And as a result, you can see that it's pulling away. It's pulling away, and that's not so bad because the wool will actually insulate this. But the problem is, when the top is down, the heat can creep in here because it doesn't create that seal when the top is down on this, it doesn't seal across this transition here. So what ends up happening is the heat can creep through here, and then it starts to burn and affect the metal housing of the forge. So we're gonna replace this too. Oh, plus you can see that there's a few pits in here as well. But then you can see all that metal down at the bottom there. The burner doesn't look like it's happy either, but I think the burner will be okay for a little while longer before I have to replace that. But yeah, I don't know what's going on underneath the Firebrick, so we're gonna pull everything out and we're gonna see what needs to be replaced. I don't have another Firebrick. I'm going to probably put this same one back in. I want to take the burner out so that it's not in my way as I'm taking the wool out of its place. Look closer at this. You can see that the cone is just deteriorating on this bottom side, and it's got all this extra stuff up on top. And maybe I need to have the burner sit back a little further into the wool, and it might not hurt to have some of the wool actually coat the burner nozzle here better. But the internal workings seem okay, and all of the main important pieces are back here anyway. It's just the channeling. But yeah, the burner does look like it's got some damage on the tip. We'll be all right with that, I think. I think that will be all right. So we got our Firebrick out. It's more of a metal Firebrick now, but there's our Firebrick. And this is the bottom coat. You can see there's a bit of copper down here. We'll save these. We'll save these. We'll try to melt them down another day. It's got its own little alloy going on down here. Mix of aluminum and some copper. But one thing I noticed, this is only 1 inch stuff. This is interesting because I guess the heat goes up, that the wool actually does a better job down on the bottom, but it was getting really thin right here where the metal puddles were. So that's a good thing for me to note, that where the puddles were being formed, the wool gets thinner. So that makes sense. So this is what it looks like on the inside without any wool. We've got our weld points for the feet. We got our burner opening. And the only thing that was really holding the wool in place are the screws, which hold on our nameplate. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. these little fibers are embedding themselves in my gloves, my coat, and even getting underneath everything and going in my skin, and it's just driving me crazy. Oh, that's gonna work. That's gonna do it. Just gotta get the seam to line up at the bottom and again at the top. That's gonna do it. All right. Man, I have this stuff everywhere. It's a slight gap up here, but that's not going to matter. I'm gonna cover that with the rigidizer. So what we've got here is you got the burner hole right there, and then you can see right here is one of the seams. Right, we're gonna do our best not to mess up our work here. And the other thing that we've got, you can see it barely, is the other seam right here. So we got the two 1-inch pieces with the seams not in the same place. That way, as the top one shrinks, it's not gonna affect the bottom one. So it's time to put the nozzle back on the burner, and it's definitely showing its age. I'm gonna have to replace this here pretty soon. Let's go ahead and stick this back in. Give that a minute. That's all moisture coming out. You can smell the cement, the steam. This may need a little bit longer to cure naturally, I think. There's still a lot more moisture than I was hoping for. But we'll let this cure a little bit longer. It's been inside my house for about 3 days, but there's still quite a bit of water in it, so we're gonna let this sit until next week. So I think we're gonna have to call the video here with it steaming away. So it turned out okay. There are a few areas that I'm not exactly excited about. The lid, it's not exactly flat, but I think it'll accidentally work. It's gonna be fine. We'll find out over time, and if I have to adjust it, I will. I've got about 2/3 of that Refactory cement still, and I have some scrap wool that if I need to, I'll figure out something. But all in all, I think this was a good experience for me to figure out what the forge is made of and how it's built. It took 3 days to cure in my house at about 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The instructions called for 24 hours at 60, and then it has instructions for how to treat your brick up until the time that you use it. Just seeing that this is not a brick, I don't know the instructions. So as I lit it just now and it steamed like crazy, I'm worried that the rapid loss of moisture may force the cement to crack, and I don't want it to crack this early. It'll crack eventually, but I just don't want it to crack already. So I'm going to let it sit for another few days. I really wanted to try to melt something today, but I don't feel that it's going to do the forge any favors. So another video will come soon where I will melt something, just not this video. I apologize. And just as a reminder, those 2 bars you saw in the opening, those are available. They are part of our giveaway today. Leave me a comment if you are interested in those bars, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night.